meza patameni, na meza patameni. Mambe, isine patonye. Mambe, isine patonye.
of the University of Ibadan, Professor Odaibo, MNI-FAS, the Dean Faculty of Science, Professor I.A. Oladoju. I want to warmly welcome you to this valedictory lecture which is being held in honor of our very own dear Professor Alexander Bababunmi Odaibo. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a brief lecture.
Professor Alexander Bababunmi Odaibo is a distinguished academic, an esteemed member of the Department of Zoology and prominent researcher affiliated with the University of Ibadan, where he has contributed significantly to the field of parasitology and malacology since 1984. A graduate of the University of Benin, he earned his bachelor's degree in zoology in 1980, subsequently pursuing a master's degree in parasitology at the University of Ibadan from 1982 to 1983. His exemplary academic journey includes notable positions at various institutions, including the parasitology unit at Adekunle Ajasin University and Obafemi Awolowo University, as well as a brief tenure at the MRC National Institute for Medical Research in the United Kingdom. Since joining the University of Ibadan as an assistant lecturer in 1984, Professor Odaibo has demonstrated unwavering dedication to education and research. He furthered his expertise by obtaining a certificate in general epidemiology of schistosomiasis from the prestigious Danish Bilharziasis Laboratory in 1986. Professor Odaibo's doctoral research on host-parasite relationships conducted on a DANIDA fellowship culminated in a PhD in 1989, solidifying his status as a leading expert in his field. He ascended to the rank of professor in 2001, reflecting his profound impact and commitment to academic excellence. His research primarily focuses on the epidemiology and control of parasitic diseases, particularly malaria and schistosomiasis, positioning him as a pivotal figure within the global health community. Throughout his career, Professor Odaibo has garnered multiple research grants, such as the University of Ibadan Senate Research Grant, WHO MIM-TDR Research Capacity Strengthening Grant, MacArthur University of Ibadan Multidisciplinary Grants, and sponsorships from reputable organizations including the United States Agency for International Development and Institut Pasteur. His extensive research portfolio includes over 120 scientific publications in both local and international journals, establishing him as a prolific contributor to academic discourse and public health. In addition to his research accomplishments, Professor Odaibo has served the university and faculty in various key leadership roles. His leadership positions include Faculty Board Representative in the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Subdean of Biological Sciences, Acting Director of the Zoological Garden, Head of the Department of Zoology, and Dean of the Faculty of Science from 2011 to 2013. Following his tenure at the University of Ibadan, he served as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Igbinedion University, Okada, from 2013 to 2015. As a mentor, Professor Odaibo has successfully supervised over 13 PhD theses and numerous master's dissertations, guiding many students who have gone on to become professors and leaders in their respective fields, both in Nigeria and internationally. His dedication to scientific advancement is further highlighted by his participation in significant committees, including the UIUCH Ethics Committee. A respected fellow of several prestigious organizations, Professor Odaibo holds fellowships with the Zoological Society of Nigeria, FZSN, the Science Association of Nigeria, FSAN, Salzburg Global Seminar 393 in Austria, and the Public Health and Parasitology Society of Nigeria, FPPSN. He currently serves as the president of the Zoological Society of Nigeria, ZSN, and is the chairman of the board of directors at CAO Contractors Nigeria Limited. Professor Odaibo's personal life is equally fulfilling. He is married to Professor Georgina Njideka Odaibo, a prominent professor of virology at the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, and together they are blessed with remarkable children and grandchildren. Throughout his illustrious career, Professor Alexander Bababunmi Odaibo has exemplified the principles of academic rigor, public health advocacy, and community service, leaving an indelible mark on the fields of zoology and health in Nigeria and beyond. His legacy of excellence and commitment to nurturing future generations of scientists stands as a testament to his remarkable life's work and enduring purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, invited guests, it's my pleasure to present to you Professor Alexander Bababunmi Odaibo.
The Vice Chancellor, represented by the two Deputy Vice Chancellors, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academy, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research Innovation and Strategic Partnership, the Provost College of Nursing, the Dean of Faculty of Science, Deans of other faculties here present, the Head of Department of Zoology, the Heads of other departments in the Faculty of Science, the Heads of other departments, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I had looked forward to this day. I will be standing before this distinguished audience to share how my early life and experiences have led me to where I am today. I give all glory and honor unto God for His faithfulness in the past 42 years in the city of Ibadan and in this citadel of learning, University of Benin, the first and the best. It is therefore with an amazing sense of fulfillment and unspeakable joy that I stand before you this moment to deliver this valedictory lecture, which marks my formal exit from the services of the university. Recalling the early chapters of my life from Memoir. As a zoologist, I haven't had the privilege of teaching animal behavior and learning to my students for several years. I have come to understand that a man's memory is his private library. The information within is not accessible to others without him sharing it. It was as I put my pen to paper to tell my life story, I noticed that recalling age-long information from memory can actually be difficult. As one grows old, there is a tendency to lose what has defined us. Nevertheless, it is important to remember and to recall who we were so as to help put in proper perspective of who we are today, particularly as one retires from active service after 42 years. This task, however, may be challenging due to several factors, which can lead to inaccuracies, gaps in recollection, and sometimes false memories. To mitigate these deficiencies, I decided to use my encounter with parasites in the first season of my life as a retrieval cues to enhance my recall from a long-term memory. Hence, I titled this valedictory lecture An Uncharted Journey with My Childhood Parasites, Memoir of a Parasitologist. It is a journey of self-discovery where my early life experiences with human parasites, which were most of the time scary, later became the foundation of my life's work and achievement. To complete this narrative arc, I had to complement information from my library memory with information from documents stored in my various physical files and online sources. Reminiscences of my childhood. In the beginning, I was born 17 years ago in 1955. At least there are vivid witnesses and some written records to that effect. I could recall very little about my early years in life, particularly my preschool years. It was for me like every other preschooler, an exciting age full of wondrous explorative tendencies. Unlike the city child, I did not have toys to play with. I engaged more in imaginative plays, mostly with other children in the neighborhood, such as pretending to be a teacher, a doctor, or characters from some famous fables. I saw my grandmother and grandfather before they died. I was brought up in a very adorable and disciplined polygamous family, and I had experiences and exposures typical of rural child. My father, Prof James Odaibo, had an uncommon hunger and passion for education. He was aware of the strategic role of education in the life and development of every individual. At a time when most of his peers were only thinking of how to increase the number and sizes of their farmland, he sent all his 18 children to school. He played about through the first set of the children, with me sitting on the first seat by the right. You will see where our pants were on our chest, not below the buttocks as it is. I started at St. Andrew's Primary School, Okene, in Okene local government area, between 1962 and 1968. And finished up at St. Peter's Primary School of Magogo local government area, both in Kogi State in 1969. One particular thing I recall very fondly was my going to swim in community streams and rivers, usually located far away from the house, after school hours or on weekends. After my primary school education, I proceeded to Crowder Memorial College, Lakeside, in 1970. I did very well in my first year in college, and my father commended me for my performances. But when it was time to return to school after the holidays, my father informed me that I was not returning to school. He would no longer be able to pay my fees due to his dwindling resources. At this time, he had retired from the services of the Northern Nigeria government as agricultural superintendent with a meager pension. He then revealed to me that he had registered me for a motor vehicle mechanic apprenticeship in Benin, a neighboring town where a cousin of mine was already an apprentice. I did not say anything, but I immediately proposed in my heart that I would not remain in the village nor take up the apprenticeship. If I would not go back to school, I was prepared to follow his own footsteps. He left the village very early in life for Lokoja on foot, when his father, that is my late grandfather, would not send him to school to seek for education. However, that was not to be, because my father and my mother were able to resolve the matter, and I went back to school to resume classes from 2. It was later I learned that my father took that decision just to pressurize my mother, a petty trader, to contribute to my school. In my final year, I was made a school timekeeper. With the aid of the bear, I helped maintain the schedule of the boys' dormitory and all time-sensitive activities of the entire school, ensuring seamless transition between classes or other events at the designated times. In hindsight, I was not always very punctual with the wake-up bells, particularly in the mornings. There were days I woke up late, causing everybody to start the morning activities late, and I always blame that on the clock. This role of a timekeeper, however, enabled me to cultivate and maintain accuracy in keeping track of time, and to help to develop passion for punctuality. And later in this job, I also adopted the principle: if you are on time, you are late, which implies that to truly be on time, one should arrive a few minutes early to accommodate unforeseen delays. When I joined Bible Study Fellowship International in 2000, the quote was emphasized in the beginning of most of our meetings for us to understand the importance of time and to dismiss the concept of Africa time, which encourages tardiness, lousiness, and total disregard for schedules and programs. The quote stuck with me, and I have continued to follow it even at 70 years. The more I recall my late father's idea of me dropping out of school for an apprenticeship in auto mechanic, the more thrilling it becomes to me. There were times I inadvertently tried to imagine the type of motor mechanic I would have been if I had not gone back to school. I probably would have specialized on heavy vehicle mechanic, focusing on maintaining and repairing large vehicles like trucks and heavy equipment, just like my cousin that completed his own training. My story today will have been different. I will not be standing before you here and now. This is how simple decisions we take on behalf of our children, even seemingly insignificant ones, can have profound impact on their future, shaping their paths and ultimately altering their life journey. After my secondary education, I was admitted into Parasitologist College of Technology, Basic Studies Program, where I sat for my University of Cambridge Higher School Certificate Examination in 1976, and I majored in mathematics, chemistry, and biology. This subject combination had ruled out medicine as a potential career option. At this time, 4 of my siblings standing in that place, one that we out there, were already in medical schools, either training as doctors or as nurses. And my father would discourage any of the remaining children from going into medical school. I had always wanted to be a lecturer in the university or a researcher in a research institute. So I was not particular about what courses I should study, provided I ended up in the university or the research institute. While I waited for admission into the university after my A-level studies, I secured a temporary appointment with the Parasite Ministry of Education, and I was sent to Kainj, New Busa in 1977 to teach biology in Bobu Government Secondary School. I got admission into the University of Benin, Benin City to study zoology in 1977. The play that shows me in my matriculation town in 1977. As a student of zoology, at our time, we had only 2 areas where we could specialize in. These are parasitology and hydrobiology. I opted for parasitology, and this choice was informed by my earlier desire to know more about my childhood parasites, and more so by the engaging and innovative teaching strategies of Professor Odaibo. He taught with passion and the diverse needs of many of his students. We were exposed to parasites of both medical and veterinary importance, laying the solid foundation for my postgraduate studies. I graduated with a BSc Honours degree in zoology in 1980. Find the picture showed up there. I was later sent to Plateau State for my NYSc and was assigned to teach biology in Government College Miango in 1981. After my NYSc, I joined the Kwara State Ministry of Education and was posted to Offa Grammar School, where I taught for 1 year before proceeding to the University of Ibadan for my master's degree in parasitology. My sojourn in University of Ibadan. I came to University of Ibadan in 1982 for my master's degree in parasitology, and it was at this stage of my life journey that I met a distinguished parasitologist, the late Professor F.M.A. Okoli, and then the then head of parasitology unit in the Department of Zoology. He was a pleasant man with an imposing posture and credentials, a great teacher and a wonderful mentor. He supervised my MSc project and my PhD thesis. He did not only teach me all I should know, he gave me all he knew about the parasites, their intermediate hosts, the vectors, their diseases, and their control. He is late, but his foundational book on parasitology, the first book on the subject matter with an African face, the introduction to parasitology in tropical Africa, has remained relevant and valuable till date. After my master's degree in 1983, by the recommendation of another academic giant, Professor Makunwangu, the then head of the department, I joined the staff of the Department of Zoology as an assistant lecturer in 1984. In 1986, the late Professor F.M.A. Okoli nominated and recommended me for a certificate course in epidemiology of general schizophreniasis at the WHO Snail Identification Center, Danish Pediatrics Laboratory in Denmark. I returned to Denmark in 1987 on the Danish International Development Agency doctoral fellowship to conduct my PhD research on the recommendation of the director of Danish Pediatrics Laboratory Denmark. While on the program, The laboratory sponsored me to the British Society of Parasitology Conference in Leeds, in the UK, in 1987, to present part of my research finding. I had three remarkable experiences during this conference. Firstly, during the conference, a young lady walked up to me to introduce herself as an alumna of the University of Ibadan, who graduated from the Department of Zoology. Thereafter, he made a confession, or should I say a complaint, that it was when she got to London School of Tropical Medicine and Parasitology that she saw a true prepared sample of malaria parasite for the first time. What she had considered as malaria parasite in the obsolete slides she used when she was in University of Ibadan were actually artifacts. To say the least, I was embarrassed, and I had to apologize to her for the deficiencies in our system during her undergraduate days. Most of the specimens and laboratory facilities for teaching and practicals in the department were actually obsolete and very deficient. Poor teaching facilities can have significant negative consequences for the university, faculty, and students. Secondly, at one of our lunch breaks during the conference, I had the good fortune of sitting beside Professor J.D. Smith, a distinguished author of several textbooks in parasitology. I seized the opportunity to introduce myself, shook his hands with so much excitement, and I collected his contact. The meeting was never to be forgotten. Attending conferences early in our career offers, among other benefits, opportunity for networking and meeting your mentors. Thirdly, after the conference, I had some excess of funds over my expenditure from the extra goods I got from the lab. While I was thinking of what to spend it on, my co-supervisor, whom I traveled with, advised that we pay this excess fund back into the institution's account, underscoring the need for honesty, integrity, and accountability in my academic journey. It also encouraged me to learn to delay gratification, a practice that motivates one to resist immediate temptations. After my sojourn in Benin, I returned to Nigeria in 1988, and to my surprise, I received a commendation letter from the then Vice Chancellor of University of Ibadan, late Professor Obanjo, and I quote, "Report written by the Director of the Danish Research Laboratory on your work while in Denmark has been brought to my notice. I therefore write this special commendation for doing the university name Nigeria proud by your comportment, behavior, and performance to attract this comment. Alex was simply the best of the numerous MSc and PhD students you have ever had in the country. Congratulations for describing your thinking very well, and I defended my PhD thesis in 1989. I rose through the ranks to the level of a professor in the Department of Zoology in 2001. My childhood parasites. A child born in Africa is at a high risk of contracting parasitic diseases, particularly those referred to as neglected tropical diseases. Even before birth, the fetus in the womb in endemic countries may be at risk from malaria parasite Plasmodium falciparum, infection via the placenta, and soon after birth, the child is also at risk from multiple infections throughout his life. The water used for drinking, the food he eats, the soil on which he crawls or walks, and the numerous species of insects he encounters within and outside his home are all vehicles of transmission for at least one parasite. The diseases associated with infections are endemic and highly prevalent in most regions of the country, particularly in areas with poor sanitation and lack of suitable access to clean water. As a child, I grew up in a typical low-resource rural setting. I had my own share of childhood parasitic infections, including malaria, caused by the Plasmodium species, intestinal parasites such as roundworms, Ascaris lubricoides, and hookworms, and Xylostoma duodenale, and Necato americanus, and the schistosomiasis caused by Schistosoma hematobium and Schistosoma mansoni. My childhood malaria. Malaria was the most significant parasitic threat to me in my early childhood. I now know that the disease was transmitted by the bite of the female Anopheles mosquitoes, and that their long lifespan and strong human biting habit are the main reason for the endemicity of malaria in Nigeria. Malaria had been a major cause of childhood death, and children under 5 years accounted for 76% of all malaria deaths in sub-Saharan Africa, and that nearly every minute a child under 5 dies of malaria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we all need to thank God that we survived our childhood malaria. I survived not because my mother knew what to do. It was by the special grace of God and His love for me. I would not know if my mother was able to associate my frequent malaria bouts with the bites of the mosquitoes. But as a child, I heard that staying or playing long under the sun was the cause of malaria. For me, staying long in the sun was inevitable. I had to play my football, trek to school, and from school in the sun. What I actually detested most about malaria was not the malaise associated with it. At least that always earned me extra care and pampering. It was the bitter taste and the mild issue associated with the chlorine treatment and the copious consumption of some herbal concoctions that I had to undergo with each bout of malaria. Chloroquine was an important drug used in malaria treatment, and it was affordable with high anti-malarial efficacy. It was, however, withdrawn from malaria treatment in most malaria endemic countries due to their high level of resistance among the Plasmodium falciparum parasites. The concoction was made from the combination of mango, guava, pawpaw leaves, lemongrass, boiled together in big clay pots. I was made to drink from the concoction, inhale the steam from the same concoction, bathe with it, and during every bout. Seeking treatment for malaria in government hospital was an uphill task at that time. I recall a few times my mother tried this option when self-medication with chloroquine and herbal concoction were ineffective. We would leave the house for the general hospital in Lokene at about 2 a.m. just to go and join the queue of other patients waiting to register for consultation with a doctor, if there was any doctor at that time. Other patients waiting, yes. Consultations were done mainly by senior nurses at that primary level. If you are lucky, you will see a health official by 4 p.m. approximately after 14 hours of waiting. Apart from the cost, the difficulty in accessing skilled and quality malaria services and care in the pre-urban and rural setting has caused home management of malaria to thrive. Today, artemisinin-based combination therapy, ACT, is the most effective anti-malaria therapy for Plasmodium falciparum, the most lethal malaria parasites, and the most prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa. In Nigeria, artemisinin-based combination therapy is recommended as first line of malaria medicine for uncomplicated malaria. However, healthcare providers still continue with the use of less efficacious medicine, such as sulfadoxine, pyrimethamine, and chloroquine. Due to the cost, treatment of malaria in children with ACT is low in sub-Saharan Africa, with just half of children, 56%, treated with anti-malaria drug receiving the first line of treatment. Growing up, I associated complicated malaria. However, healthcare providers still continue with the use of less efficacious medicine, such as sulfadoxine, pyrimethamine, and chloroquine. Due to the cost, treatment of malaria in children with ACT is low in sub-Saharan Africa, with just half of children, 56%, treated with anti-malaria drug receiving the first line of treatment. Growing up, I associated any experience of joint pains and bitter taste in my mouth with the onset of malaria and the need to report to my mother. Even at 70, these signs still adequately herald my malaria, but today I report to my wife. I cut my teeth as a researcher in malaria in the late season of my life in 1998. Under a great pedagogue, a distinguished researcher, an excellent scientist, and a prolific poet, Prof Odaibo, who graciously absorbed me into his research team to work on antibodies that inhibit malaria merozoite surface protein 1, MST119, processing and electrocyte invasion. The objective of the study was to develop capacity for the production of malaria vaccine. The malaria research was later headed by Professor Alexander Bababunmi with the whole main grant. This study exposed me to fine details of descriptive longitudinal cohort-based surveys and the associated ethical issues. My childhood intestinal worm infections. Intestinal worms, particularly soil-transmitted ailments, such as Ascaris lubricoides, were always the unwanted visitors in my gut. Unlike malaria parasites, their presence could be unnoticed for a very long period of time till they begin to cause diarrhea or abdominal pain. I recall my mother used castor oil as a home remedy to help expel worms due to its stability properties. What I detested were the thickness, which makes it difficult to swallow, the unpleasant taste, and the nauseating aftertaste of the oil. I now know that those seemingly harmless infections that can actually affect the cognitive and physical development of a child. My research work on intestinal worms started with my PhD thesis, where I used mouse model to explain host-parasite relationship. My childhood exposure to schistosomiasis. Growing up as a child, I enjoyed going to the village stream and river to wash clothes and swim, particularly on weekends. This washing and swimming in the natural water bodies had some serious impact on my encounter with my childhood parasite, which I did not realize. The natural water bodies harbored snails, holes of schistosomiasis, and other trematode parasites of medical and veterinary importance. The snails were not only very small, they also appeared harmless, so that they were usually ignored even when sighted. Unbeknown to me and other children swimming, these snails shed millions of cercaria into the water to initiate infection, which when they come in contact with our skin. Usually after washing, we spread the clothes on grasses to dry and then jump into the water body to swim, start naked, exposing nearly all our body surfaces to the cercaria, thereby enhancing their penetration of the skin. This practice partly explains why the prevalence and intensity of infection in any endemic country would always peak at the school-age children. I probably acquired my infection with Schistosoma hematobium through this practice, but I will not be able to say precisely when it happened. I was, however, diagnosed of this disease bilharziasis in 1972, when I noticed that I had gross hematopia, that is blood in my urine, and from at Crowder Memorial College now to this day. And I visited the General Hospital for consultation. The drug treatment for human schistosomiasis began in 1981, when a human case with S. hematobium infection was successfully treated with potassium antimony and tartrate. Thereafter, a variety of antiemetics have been used to treat schistosome infections in humans, and most of these drugs have variable limitations with respect to safety and efficacy. In 1972, when I was medically diagnosed with urogenital schistosomiasis, the drug available for treatment of schistosomiasis in the then General Hospital of Ibadan, where I was receiving treatment, was nirintazole, with a trade name Ampliha. Nirintazole was the drug of choice, or the best drug available for treatment of schistosomiasis and guinea worm in the state at that time. It was given daily 25 milligrams per body kg for 5 to 10 days, and the toxicity includes nervous system problems such as seizures, headaches, dizziness, agitation, insomnia, and hallucination. My harrowing experience with this drug was the very dark coloration it gave to my urine. Nobody warned me of it. I was alarmed, and coupled with some adverse effects such as headache, dizziness, and insomnia, I had to stop the treatment without completing the dosage. I also stopped going to the hospital. I could not recall when and how my schistosomiasis occurred, but my desire to know more about Schistosoma hematobium and the snail intermediate holes and the epidemiology and control of the disease was just starting, and it continued to date. However, with the discovery of parasitology, the drug of choice at the end of 1970s, significantly progress has been made in the schistosomiasis control. My research work on schistosomiasis and the snail intermediate holes started in 1990 after the defense of my PhD thesis. my marriage in my family. By late 1988, I was not thinking about marriage until I met a young delectable lady, Georgina Odaibo, in 1989. Early in our relationship, having healthy children was our priority. Oh, that's my grandson. Wanted to come and join me. Having healthy children was our priority. So we decided that we were going to have only 3 children, a number we thought we would be able to give the best of education and living standard. We also agreed to adopt the conservative 3 years birth intervals for our children. Another silent factor we considered was our genotype. My genotype on the onset was AS, meaning I have 1 normal hemoglobin gene and 1 sickle cell hemoglobin gene. While my wife's genotype, according to the test she had conducted in the past, was AA, meaning she had 2 normal hemoglobin genes. By this combination, for every pregnancy, our baby or babies had 50% chance of inheriting AA genotype and 50% chance of inheriting AS genotype. There would be no chance of any of our children having sickle cell disease SS. That validated our decision to go ahead and get money. We had our first child, a lovely baby girl, and she was AS genotype. And 3 years after, my wife had a second pregnancy. And when she was 4 months into the pregnancy, the doctors in the University of College Hospital, where she had planned to register for antenatal care, began an indefinite industrial action. We then decided to register her at the Jericho Nursing Home in Ibadan for the period of industrial action. At the point of registration, the nursing home insisted on carrying out their own genotype test. As a policy, they would not accept any test result from other laboratories. Lo and behold, when the test result of my wife came out, she had AS genotype, which would mean, as we were both AS, the implication of this was scary and unsettling. It means for every pregnancy, we have 25% chance of having a child with a sickle cell disease, and the outcome of each pregnancy will not be predicted with certainty. At this point, we turned to God and we began to pray. When it comes to exercising faith in difficult times, my wife towers far above me in her ability to boldly express her needs and worries to God. I, on the other hand, I struggle with the thought of not asking too much from God or asking for seemingly difficult things, forgetting that nothing is impossible with God. While she audaciously prayed to God to change her own genotype from AS, I prayed, telling God not to give me an SS child. By the special grace of God, the second pregnancy resulted in a bouncing baby boy, Amadosi, with an AS genotype. 3 years after the birth of Amadosi, trusting and believing in the faithfulness of God, my wife had her 3rd pregnancy and gave birth to her 3rd child, Mosiforega, also with AS genotype. In His faithfulness, God blessed us with 3 children we had prayed and trusted Him for, and we all had AS genotype. Who says God does not answer prayers? Of those who call on Him, do not ask if my wife's genotype has been changed. All I know is if a man can do it through bone marrow transplant, then God will do it better in His own supernatural way. A call for extreme caution. This true life story sounds simplistic, and people may be tempted to want to emulate it. It is important at this point to warn that this part of my story should not be cited as justification for a marriage between 2 established AS genotype individuals. This combination has a risk of producing a child with sickle cell disease for every pregnancy. Bone marrow transplant as an option is new, very expensive, and it carries some risk. Know that we did not deliberately decide to marry as 2 individuals with AS genotype. We believe things went the way it did so that God's name will be glorified. parasites and my family. As an elite family living in the university environment with moderate access to potable water and average environmental sanitation, the predominant infection we experience from time to time is from Plasmodium falciparum, which causes malaria. I could recall that our first son, Amandosi, had some low level of Plasmodium parasites in his peripheral blood soon after birth. This through day of personal communication. I remember immediately after birth, his blood sample was taken and they came back with some low level of parasitemia in his blood. His infection was, however, not clinically apparent and he was not subjected to any treatment. We did not let parasitic worms threaten the health of our family, so we prevent and eliminate worms by deworming regularly and visiting the clinic when necessary. Further testimonies of God in God's faithfulness in my life. My life journey is rife with amazing testaments to God's faithfulness, particularly in times of difficulty. Almighty God has been kind to me and my family. I had some unexpected challenges. God made ways for me to overcome. I recall one of such when I was on sabbatical at Ibadan University in 2015 as the Dean of the Faculty of Natural Sciences. After one of my weekend visits to my family here in Ibadan, I was preparing to travel back to Okada when my wife informed me that she will go jogging after my departure. And I remember telling her not to go alone. I advised that she should go with our last foreigner who was on holidays at that time. It was when I got to Okada that I called to inform her of my safe arrival and to inquire about her morning exercise. That she told me that she could not continue jogging after 50 meters away from the house. She had an excruciating pain on her legs and she could hardly walk. So our son that accompanied her literally packed her back to the house to rest and to take some pills. 2 weeks after that, I returned to Ibadan and we embarked on a trip to the US via Frankfurt in Germany for our holidays. It was when we got to Frankfurt airport for the connecting flight to the US that the severe pain on my wife's legs re-emerged with so much difficulty for her to walk. We boarded the connecting flight of almost 8 hours in agonizing pain to the US, not exactly sure what was causing the pain. When we got to our destination, late in the night, and I immediately narrated my wife's experience to our host, who incidentally is a medical doctor. After the narration, I had expected he would ask questions and maybe suggest what could be the cause of the pain, but he kept mute for a very long time and tried not to betray his emotions by avoiding eye contact with me or with any one of us. He simply dismissed us with the excuse that we needed to go to bed after a long flight and that he would drop us in the hospital early in the morning to see a specialist. It was after our host confessed to me that himself and the wife did not sleep that night. They were on their knees praying for my wife not to die before the morning time. Very early in the morning, he took us to the hospital, and as soon as my wife narrated her experience to the reception desk, they rushed her to the emergency unit for care. It was 2 to 3 hours after they informed me that my wife had thrombosis, formation of blood clot inside the blood vessels, obstructing the flow of blood through the circulatory system. This shocking revelation was followed by the mitigating news that the clot had been located and trapped, so they would proceed to dissolve it. She was then placed on admission. At this time, I had only $500 in my pocket, no health insurance, so I wasn't sure what to do. The good thing there was that they did not ask me to give any advance payment. I was not requested to go and buy hand gloves or syringes. They were only giving me updates concerning the condition of my wife. At a point, I was told that she might need the attention of she might need to undergo heart surgery because part of the clot had traveled through her heart. They will wait for the assessment of a cardiologist. She was on admission for 1 week, and God delivered her from the unpleasant dangers of thrombosis with significant mortality. By the special grace of God, she has survived 3 episodes of this embolism, all to the glory of God and merciful God. We were in home and have our being. May his name be praised forever and ever. Mentoring, I always believe that the most valuable investment is the one you make in people. So I dedicated myself and my resources in this journey to mentoring and capacity development of my students. I have had the common privilege of successfully supervising and mentoring over 15 students, pursuing PhDs, programs in the Department of Zoology, University of Benin. Special appreciating the parasites, which we read so much. I was very young when I had my first encounter with parasites. Now I am old, with over 60 years in my relationship with parasites. I've never seen any other organism that seamlessly undergo biological adaptation to life like parasitic organisms. They develop traits that increase their chances of survival and reproduction in any given environment. And where necessary, they de-emphasize features and structures that are not needed for survival and reproduction. The new traits developed are passed down from generations and are often shaped by natural selection. Parasites have evolved complex life cycles that involve different goals and stages, often maximizing transmission opportunities, and hybridization between parasites have become an important evolutionary mechanism that drive new adaptive phenotypes that can enable the colonization of new environments. Some parasites can manipulate the behavior of their hosts to increase their chances of transmission and survival. While parasites can be detrimental, they offer insights into their resilience, adaptation, their biology in general that will lead to advancement in human health. Appreciating University of Ibadan. I'm very grateful to the Council of University of Ibadan for giving me the platform to continue the journey I started some years back. The journey provided an environment. The university provided an environment for me to make my academic contributions to the general field of zoology and my specific field of interest, parasitology. It afforded me the intellectual freedom in my research and teaching, in addition to providing me with an opportunity to learn from my colleagues, students, and educational community. As I retire from the services of the university, my heart is full of gratitude to God, who ordered my steps in my life journey, and to the past administrators of the university for their efforts to maintain the academic culture of the university. I most sincerely appreciate the current administration led by Professor Odaibo, MNI, FAS, for their leadership and efforts to achieve the noble vision of this great university. My best wishes and prayers will always remain with this great university, the first and the best. I appreciate the Department of Zoology. My appreciation goes to my head of department and a member of council of University of Ibadan, Professor Odaibo, FAS, and all the academic and administrative staff for organizing this valedictory lecture. The department provided an enabling environment that supported and facilitated my ability to conduct my research and interact with my students. I remember with thanks all my senior colleagues whose total commitment and dedication to duty motivated and challenged me in the early days of my career. Dear Professor F.M.A. Okoli, dear Professor S. Etoye, Professor W.W. Moda, Professor S. Ofagade, Professor M.M. Mwabu, dear Professor A.A. Adebisi, Professor Tony Okore, Professor A.T. Hassan, now His Royal Highness, the Elishubon official in the Jabo Mushin, and Professor A. Igumba. I give special recognition and thanks to Professor Deha Ogumba, Professor A. Bakari, Professor Hassan Olori official, and Professor Ola Jumoke Morenikeji, Professor Regina Mumba, Professor Adedolapo Ayuade, Professor K.O.K. Ogola, Professor Siaka I. Anomodo, and Professor Henrietta Awubodi, Professor A.A. Shomi, for their collaborations at various times in my journey. I also acknowledge the support of all other academic staff and non-teaching staff of the Department of Zoology. Our interactions in the department fostered learning, career development, and individual well-being. I can only be grateful for our shared experiences, and as I pass the baton, let us endeavor to encourage inter- and intra-unit research collaboration. It is an excellent way to enhance innovation and creativity. My recommendations to the university: energy supply, like in many other universities, is a major problem. The university should intentionally diversify the power sources to the faculty. The university needs to begin to emphasize the establishment of on-campus state-of-the-art teaching facilities. Efforts should be made to stem the current staff attrition in the university. It results in significant decrease in the workforce of the department. And I have this recommendation for the government. Government should commit more resources to the control of parasitic diseases, particularly now that the United States of America that have played a pivotal role in providing financial support for the control of these diseases has stopped the flow of such resources. Government should begin to rethink health financing and completely shy away from relying on foreign aid. Government should do more to halt insecurity in most parts of the country, as the prevailing insecurity hinders effective disease prevention and control. Government should embark on sustainable improvement in public health infrastructures, and government should lift embargo on staff employment in the universities. I am eternally grateful to all my teachers, right from the elementary school to the tertiary institution, for their training and love. I wish to acknowledge the immense gratitude the following giants in the field of parasitology, on whose soldiers I stood on in the course of my journey, and with my childhood parasite, late Prof Odaibo, who introduced me to the study of the parasite. My master, a PhD supervisor and mentor, late Professor Odaibo. He was not only a teacher, but a guardian and a friend. Then Professor M.N. Nwangu, who taught me how to approach the study of parasite at the molecular level, and Professor Niels Christensen of Danish Laboratory for supervising my PhD. The Faculty of Science, University of Ibadan, was truly a home for me in this journey. It was a place I had an amazing feeling of belonging, comfort, and familiar work. I enjoyed the intellectual stimulation and the close relationship I had with peers and mentors in the faculty. I thank all the past deans, and particularly the current dean, Professor I.A. Olaibo, for their consequential leadership. I have been inspired by numerous secret mentors, those who never knew they are my mentors. I cannot mention all of them, but I cannot but mention Emeritus Professor Oluwole Akande, OFR, Professor Samuel Lofi, and Professor Rotimi Oderimi. I thank the council and entire members of the Zoological Society of Nigeria for their various opportunities to serve as the first National Secretary, Editor-in-Chief, and now the President of the Society. The Society provided various learning opportunities, such as workshops, symposiums, conferences, online interaction, and mentoring programs to help me and other members acquire and refine our leadership skills. I also thank Chairperson Professor Ekanem Bray, members of boards of trustees, members of council, the President, Professor Sabuwogo, and the entire members of Parasitology and Public Health Society of Nigeria for the shared experiences in our desire to know more about parasites and to learn how to control or eliminate them. I must thank the chaplaincy of the Chapel of Restoration University of Benin, led by the Venerable Dr. Victor I. Oladele, for their prayers and my spiritual nourishment and growth. May the good Lord our God continue to bless your ministry and the chapel. I also remember the former chaplains and their impact on my spiritual life. I appreciate the current chairman, Jimmy Ashari, and the past chairmen for their labor of love in the vineyard. I cannot forget the Bible study preparatory group of the Chapel of Restoration, led by Engineer Richard Modiosi, for the opportunity to study and share the word of God. I thank the Christian Family Fellowship of University of Benin, led by Professor Emmanuel Ajab, for their ceaseless prayers and support at all times. I thank the President, Professor Chiboti Awoyemi, and members of Men's League Society of the Chapel of Restoration for the fellowship and for the word of God we share. I appreciate the Ogori December Union Ibadan branch under the leadership of Mr. Toyin Mosuku for their love, support, and ceaseless desire to uphold the motto of the Union, one naked 99, 100. I must not forget to appreciate the Snow Staff Club that offered and continue to offer enabling space for social, recreational, and community-related activities for me and my family. I thank the current president, Dr. Olufemi Odaibo, and all the past presidents, particularly Professor Odaibo, Prof Odaibo, Lucas, under whom I served as the catering secretary and treasurer respectively. They taught me the importance of delegation in leadership. I cannot forget the refreshing moments I shared with my good friends in Tefuwa, with the dispersed membership, and now virtually coordinated by Dr. John Gogo. I learned humor, tolerance when we meet face to face. With utmost joy, I appreciate my family. I owe so much debt of gratitude for the prayer and support and guidance. Their contributions are immeasurable and beyond any stretch of imagination. I especially appreciate Professor S.K. Odaibo, an amazing role model, a great surgeon, and his dear wife, Mrs. M. Odaibo, who taught me not to be weary of prayers. Professor F.S. Odaibo and wife, Aisha Odaibo, Mrs. Alice Olawole, Mrs. Victoria Modu, and husband, Engineer G.T. Odaibo, Mrs. Christiana Adebosi, and husband, Engineer Tosin Adebosi, Pastor David and the wife, Francis Odaibo and the wife, Engineer Adebayo Odaibo and the wife, Taye Odaibo, Eyinde Odaibo, Bose Odaibo, Erasmus Odaibo, and it's a large family of Odaibo. And there's a page that showing 18 of us still alive today. I also appreciate all members of the Achiboye family for your love and support at all times. My gratitude goes to Mrs. Comfort Achiboye, Engineer Bimbo Aloko, and wife, Mrs. Christiana Achiboye, and Ruth Achiboye, and Pastor and Mrs. Wale Adeyemo for their prayers and support. My thanks also go to my in-laws, Engineer Sylvester Maduforo and his dear wife, Godlaw Obi Maduforo, Mrs. Gladys Victoria Ambe, Professor Timothy and their wife, Esther Timothy, and Reverend Sister Ruth Dimfa Maduforo for your care and love for my family. I also appreciate all members of the Campbell family for their love and support at all times. I especially appreciate my Professor Malara Campbell, Deputy Vice Chancellor of the City University of Ibadan. Thank you for raising such an amazing son that is now part of our family and for teaching him all that is important. Finally, I want to especially appreciate my nuclear family, the greatest blessing in my journey. They journeyed with me through thick and thin, and every turn and twist they were there. I want to thank my ever-smiling wife and friend, Professor Dodina Odaibo, an angel who has been and always a helper and a veritable better half. So the children of God has given us, Mrs. Osilmini Chikodinaka Campbell, and husband, Mr. Adeni Nola Campbell, Master Amadosi Chinedu Odaibo, Master Mosi Foreigner Uzo Chikodaibo. I thank you all for the mutual love we have always shared, and I bless God and my grandchildren, Chukwualuwa Campbell and Tony Oseka Campbell. The father to my joy and my path shine, may their path shine brighter in the fullness of time. I will not forget my other children, Esther Timothy, Kevin Adiboye, Megabu Adiboye, Bozokas, Feyano Adiboye, Enilolu Goke, and Prof Odaibo. And thank you all who have come to listen to my story. The intention was to give younger faculty hope and courage to find meaning in their own struggle. The presence of members of Organization of Women in Science and Development and friends of OWSD in large number is well appreciated. And I also thank the President and also the member of Council, Prof Odaibo. Thank you all for the critical role you are playing in science and in science and education. Let me conclude these back chapters of my life journey with this confession. In this life journey, I found a bosom friend, painfully not early in life in the journey, but also not too late. His name is Jesus, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. There is no other friend like him. No. He taught me how to pray, living and rejoicing every day. His name suits my soul. Christ away my fears, and He is my Savior and my Lord. May His name be praised.
If you are not standing, you are wrong. Professor Odaibo deserves a standing ovation. So God, that's for you.
Ibadan.